is going on, y'all? Not a whole lot going on in the news, is there? Anyway, welcome to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where we are training up warriors, not weaklings. Today's Thursday, November 6th, in the year of our Lord 2025. And this is where we come to get equipped to stand firm, speak truth, and fight back against a culture that is trying to steal your faith, your family, and your freedom. Because this is a spiritual battle, not just political. And this fight, this battle, never takes a day off. So, because of that, we are done pulling punches. Absolutely done. And we're getting after it. So if you want to let everyone know that you're in this fight, head over to missionreadymen.com, click Shop 7 Armors, and check out all the great gear that we have over there. And also follow us on all the socials at Mission Ready Men on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X if you prefer, Getter, True Social, and even TikTok. And be sure to follow us on our Rumble and YouTube channels as well. We are up to, I believe, 668 subscribers on YouTube. So thank you all very much for that. We appreciate it. And I think that's all for business. So it is go time. Just this morning, before we get into everything else that I wanted to talk about, Nancy Pelosi has decided to call it quits. She will not seek re-election. And that is a great thing, but it's San Francisco, so there is probably going to be another massive leftist ready to take her place. We know Scott Wiener, the guy who thinks that it's okay to have sex with children, has thrown his hat in the ring. And there's another guy by the name of, I can't think of his name right now. He used to be AOC's chief of staff, and he was an architect of the Green New Deal, and he has already thrown his hat in the ring. He was challenging Pelosi before she decided to quit, and he is in the mold of Zohran Mamdani, who we will get to here in a second. So, yeah, she's gone, but it's going to be status quo until something massive changes, until there's some divine intervention. San Francisco is gone and has been for a long time. Anyway, so good riddance to Nancy Pelosi. That's all I can say. But there was some elections that took place, and a lot of people are up in arms about the results. A lot of leftists are talking about how great MAGA-tears taste. Some conservatives are upset that Republicans lost. But relax. The title of this show is Relax, because this was your typical off-year election. Republicans are notorious for sitting out these elections. And so the fact that all these Democrats won in blue states should not have been a surprise. There was one that I was kind of surprised didn't go the other way, and we'll get into that. But aside from that, this was status quo. This was business as usual. Yes, Mamdani did win, and I mean, we pretty much expected that, I think. We should have, because he was ahead. He was massively ahead in the poll. So to think otherwise is just kind of silly. But I want to play for you something that happened. There's a couple of clips from his victory speech that I want to play, but this one, and I actually meant to have it queued up right when we opened, but that completely slipped my mind. So let's take a look at this one, because this is what you all can expect in New York.
We will prove that there is no problem too large for government to solve and no concern too small for it to care about.
Well, if that is not your typical big government communist, I don't know what is. No problem too big for government to handle? Really? Well, I say that like it's a surprise. I mean, of course, he's a Islamo-communist who wants massive government control. So there you have it. There you have it. Mamdani was victorious, as we all expected. And so he talked about, he just talked about how there was no problem too big for government to solve. He wants to freeze rent. He wants to build affordable housing. He wants to crack down on so-called bad landlords, which I guess just means landlords who want to make money. And of course, if they're running like slums and stuff like that, well then, yeah, you want to clean that up. But by and large, landlords want their buildings to be nice. Landlords want to provide nice housing so that they can make as much money as they possibly can. But these commies don't want that. He wants to subsidize healthcare. He wants to subsidize childcare. City-run grocery stores, which have been massive failures everywhere they've tried. St. Louis is the most recent one, but it's everywhere it's been tried. It's been an abject failure. He wants to have fair, free, or heavily subsidized public transportation. And everything that these people, that these leftists, that these commies want costs you money. Costs you money. And of course, he wants to tax big corporations and wealthy people to fund all of his pie in the sky nonsense. He wants to expand, as evidenced by that clip, expand government intervention into every aspect of your life. He said, no concern too small. What do you think that means? What exactly do you think that means? That means every possible aspect of your life, he thinks the government should have a hand in. And how well has that worked out for the people who have tried it, who have been caught up in it? New York is lost. New York forgot. I mean, and let's remind everybody. This guy, I call him an Islamo-communist. He's palling around with the guy who planned the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, unindicted co-conspirator. He belongs to the death cult that is responsible for 9/11. And he has not denounced any of those. He has not denounced his globalize the Intifada, and it just came out today that the DSA, Democrat Socialists of America, one of the main backer of his campaign, he calls himself a Democrat socialist. They gave him a list of demands about Israel. Now, I haven't read the whole thing, so I'm not gonna get into it. But basically, well, not basically, he hates Israel. They hate Israel, and they have given him some policy prescriptions to make that manifest. New York is gone. New Yorkistan. We might as well start calling it, because it is about to be London. Londonistan. It's, I mean, the best way to red pill these people. I heard somebody say this a while back, and it rings true. The best way to red pill a leftist is to give them what they want. Well, here you go. You got what you want. Let's see if you want what you're going to get. Everywhere that this guy's policies have been tried have been failures. Every single time. Talked about the grocery stores, public transportation. Every time stuff like this is tried, it fails. And it's about to fail again massively. And a lot of people who are not down with Mamdani's leftist Islamo-communist ideology are threatening to leave. They are threatening to leave. There was a poll, and we have it up on SHR Media. So let's take a look at that article real quick. There are polls that show that a massive number of New Yorkers are ready to leave. Are ready to leave. So let's take a look at this. Governor Abbott, he said that he's going to slap 100% tariff on anyone relocating from New York to Texas if Mamdani wins. Well, I don't know how constitutional that is. If he can get away with it, great. I'm just not sure. And he's not exactly trustworthy. That's why one of the reasons why we're not in Texas anymore. But that aside, the New York Post had published a poll. I don't remember who actually conducted the poll, but 25% of New Yorkers will consider fleeing New York City, and 9% said that they are definitely going to leave if Mamdani wins. And oftentimes that's bluster. I mean, how many times have we heard leftists say they were going to leave the United States if a Republican won? It happened when Bush won, and so many people have made that promise when Trump won. This time around, some leftists have actually done it, and I will give them all the credit in the world as long as they stay gone. But anyway, so a lot of this is bluster, I think, but there are some who will do it. So let's just hypothetically say 9% said they're definitely going to leave. So that's 765,000 people. And the 25% who said they would consider it is 2.1 million. So let's just round down and say a little over 1 million people, half of all the ones who say that they will or want to leave. Let's just say half of them do. New York has 8.4 million people. If 1 million people leave, that brings it down to 7.4. And those million people who are leaving and have the means to, who would leave and have the means to leave, they're taking their income, they're taking their businesses, they're taking a pretty significant chunk of the tax base with them if they do. That's going to have some serious consequences for a lot of the people who voted for this madness. So if the high earners, if the people with the businesses, the people who are making a ton of money leave New York, that means that all of the revenue that they're projected to take in to fund all of these massive programs, that's going to take a huge hit. And if that takes a hit, who is going to pick up the slack? When people say government funded, that's taxpayer funded. So that means that the middle class is going to have to pick up that slack. And the lower middle class. And with all the jobs that these people take with them when they leave, that means that there's going to be more of a burden for the lower class people, the lower income people. They're going to be even more of a burden on the public assistance. It's going to be a death spiral. It's going to be a huge death spiral. Real estate markets are going to fall. Public services are going to be strained. And New York is going to fall. New York will no longer be considered the financial capital of the world. New York is going down. And you get the government you deserve. De Tocqueville said, in a democracy, you get the government you deserve. Well, yeah, I know we're not a democracy, we're a republic. I get that. But the fact remains, the point stands. You voted for this, New York. This is what you voted for. So if those stats hold, this is going to be a massive, massive shift for New York and for the country, really. This is going to have ripple effects that the unintended consequences are just going to be off the charts. We have no idea what kind of ripple effects this is going to have. None. And to what extent the damage it will do. But make no mistake, he is going to do massive damage. And I've heard some people say that there's going to be there might be a recall if he inflicts as much damage as it looks like he will. I don't know. I don't know that that's the case. So we shall see. Anyway, it's not just New York. There were other races, but before we get into that, let's take a look at some of these chats. Thank you all for being in the chat. I see BZ is in the chat. Sean was in the chat, but he's a little bit busy, so he is no longer here. Jersey Joe is here. Thank you, Joe, for being here. Let's see. BZ says the FDNY commission has already resigned. He's Jewish. Wow, I hadn't heard that yet. But I can't believe how many Jewish people actually voted for this guy. Really. He belongs to a death cult that hates them. And it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. BZ says, that's precisely what I did when I left Califailure. I took all of my hard-earned American taxpayer dollars with me. I got tired of my tax dollars being used against me. Exactly. Exactly. That is exactly what is about to happen. Jersey Joe says housing prices in Florida are already jacking up. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. It will be interesting to see what happens with the migration that is likely going to take place. Now, it may not be 1 million people. I mean, polls are notoriously inaccurate. It may not be 1 million people. It may end up being 750,000 people. Who knows? But still, those are the people with the means. Those are the people who make the money. Those are the people who employ people. And when those people leave, they take a lot of resources with them. So, but as I said, again, thank you all for being in the chat. Appreciate it. But as I was saying, it's not just New York. New Jersey, Mikey Sherrill beat Jack Ciattarelli. Jack Ciattarelli, and again, we talk about how inaccurate polls are. I'm not really, despite the fact that the polls were really close and he was surging at the end, I'm not really surprised he didn't win. I didn't follow it, but I found out as this was going on that he distanced himself from Trump. I don't know that he actually actively criticized him, but he did distance himself from Trump, and Trump endorsed him, but it wasn't like a full-throated endorsement. He didn't campaign for him. And if you don't support Trump, he's not going to support you. It's that plain and simple. So New Jersey is still status quo. They still have both houses of their state legislature. Again, we should have seen this coming. We should not have expected anything less. But then there's Virginia. And again, Winsome Sears, she was surging at the end, but she did herself no favors back in 2022 when she said that we needed to move on from Trump. Trump has a long memory, and she never approached him with any type of apology, contrition, nothing like that. And my dad is in Virginia and is in the political scene, and he told me that her team has been her team. People could look at what has been going on and say that they were actively working against her because there were people who were trying to get her elected, and they didn't listen. They didn't listen. And so she lost. Spanberger is a massive leftist who is now in control of a leftist Congress, a leftist state legislature in Virginia. And Virginia's probably lost too, at least for a while. And if you look at a map of Virginia and all the counties, Virginia is red. Virginia is massively red, except for the greater DC area. Northern Virginia All of those leftists are living in Northern Virginia, and that is a huge population center. And that's why. But most of the people in Virginia do not support what is happening in the state capitol. And again, apathetic voters let this happen. Republicans are notorious for sitting out these off-year and midterm elections. And it's one of the lessons. Republicans have learned some lessons from the Democrats over the years, but they haven't learned that one yet. They haven't learned that one yet. The Democrats are always grinding, always working, whether they're in power or not, to make sure that they get the election outcomes that they want. And complacency kills. And because Republicans got full control, the White House, Senate, Congress, I think a lot of people just thought, hey, we got it. And because the left has been so Looney Tunes, they just think that that's going to carry it through. But as we see in New York and as we saw in Virginia, that is not the case. And I will say, there's a couple of other races I want to talk about real quick, but I will say, despite the title of the show being "We Shouldn't Have Been Surprised," I was kind of surprised that Jay Jones beat Jason Miyares for Attorney General. I thought that scandal, him wishing death on his political opponent's children, wishing that his wife would see his children die in her. I don't understand how that guy won, even in Virginia, even with all those leftists. I will say that one kind of shocked me a little bit, because that was just so over the top, so evil. And this guy is going to be the top cop in Virginia. That is a massive blow, and I'm really, really surprised. BZ says, I was not surprised, but it proves that the gloves are off. They will support anyone. We should do so as well. It's, I don't think I would ever support someone like that, but yeah, I mean, I don't think. I know I wouldn't support someone like that, but yeah, we do need to mobilize a lot better than we have been. A lot better than we have been. But there is, yeah, in general terms, I get you, BZ. There was another race, the lieutenant governor in Virginia, which is largely ceremonial. But I want you to take a look at, actually, no, before we do that, some of the implications of Spanberger being governor. She is a Second Amendment disaster waiting to happen. She is planning on banning assault weapons, assault-style weapons, because we know that there's no such thing as an assault weapon. She wants magazine limits and universal background checks, and she wants to expand red flag laws. And the fact that she has a leftist partner in the AG's office who doesn't mind using guns for his own ends, but will fight tooth and nail and make sure that you don't have yours. She claims that because of her law enforcement background, because she carried a gun on her job for years, that she knows what it means to be a responsible gun owner. But David Chipman, if you remember him, was the same way. And I meant to pull a clip from him, but I talked about him when he was nominated to be the ATF director under Biden, and he couldn't define what an assault weapon was. He was all for all kinds of restrictions on law-abiding gun owners. Said that law-abiding gun owners have been known to obtain their guns lawfully and then go ahead and commit horrible acts of violence and stuff like that. And I think he thinks that that's the norm. And he made all kinds of disparaging comments against gun owners. And this woman, Spanberger, is the same way. So yeah, Virginia, way to go. Way to go, Virginia. But yeah, I want to get into this as well, because there is the lieutenant governor in the woman who's now lieutenant governor in Virginia, who was just elected. She is another Muslim. She is another Muslim, and I want to play this. I want to show you this because this is I'm mystified how these people actually get elected. It in the United States of America. But check this out. All right, here we go. This is you see this? RIP Constitution, and she's flying the American flag upside down at a campaign rally. Wow.
Democracy to the efforts of tyranny. We are not going to concede the rights that we have in this country to protect every single citizen. We are going to fight.
There were cops here. They should have locked her up, because that is a violation of U.S. flag code. There's no, she was under no distress. These people are sick.
This is an act of civil disobedience that we are going to keep up and make sure that your voices continue and are heard all throughout.
Okay, enough of that. But there was another thing that I found in dealing with in looking at this woman, and the fact she's a Muslim. So what you're about to see should not shock you. But this is, we forgot 24 years, and we forgot. And just, it's sad. It really is. It's sad. But check this out.
Peace be upon you all. I'm so delighted.
We don't need to hear what she says. Just look at this. He has named you Muslims. He has named me a Muslim. But this is what they're after. This is what they're after. These people, man. This is if we don't do something about this, this is going to be a disaster, and not just in New York, not just in Virginia. This is going to be a disaster in Texas. We've talked about what's going on in Texas. Let me see if I have, because there was something else. I've showed this before, and I can't find the video right now. Did I bookmark it? Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. Who knows? Anyway, the fact remains. We saw what happened in New York. We see what's happening in Virginia. And we've talked about before what's happened in Dearborn. And I've played videos of the massive parades and rallies and calls to prayer that if you were just to fly a drone over those areas, you would think it was somewhere in the Middle East, but it's not. It's in Dearborn, Michigan. And there's been these types of massive things in Times Square in New York. And if you think that it's not going to happen now in New York, that they've elected a radical Islamist to run New York City, you are woefully mistaken. And it scares me. It scares me a little bit that we're going to have to fight. And it may come down to an actual fight and not just in the political realm. I hate to say that. I hate to think that. I pray that that does not happen. But in fact, I'm not sure where this is. But take a look at this. They are actually stopping traffic. Unbelievable. And yet totally believable. Anyway. All right, enough of that. We're gonna move on. I ran way over with all that nonsense, but I think we have to cover this stuff. We have to cover this stuff because for whatever reason, conservatives tend to be apathetic to this stuff. They don't think that it can happen, even though they see it happen in places over in Europe. They see what's happening in London. They see what's happening in Texas with all the mosques and compounds being built. Electing a radical Islamist in New York City, of all places. Why this is not rallying conservatives and Republicans is mystifying to me. It really is. I do not get it. I do not get it. And if someone can explain it to me, I'd be happy to listen. But just to wrap this up, this was status quo. Even though a radical Islamist is mayor in New York, and even though it was a pretty resounding defeat for Republicans in this last election, this off-year election, it was Democrats winning in blue states in an off-year election. This is not a massive defeat by any stretch of the imagination. This is status quo. It is what it is. But there's a lesson to be learned, and that lesson is we cannot be complacent. We cannot be complacent, because if we're this complacent in 2026, we'll lose the legislature, we'll lose the Senate, and we'll lose the House. And then we'll be right back to where we were in President Trump's first term. There'll be impeachments, they'll be blocking everything he wants to do, and we'll be right back where we started. And we just can't let that happen. All right, y'all. I got a lot more to get to, and I want to, I don't know if I'm going to get to everything that I had planned for today, because I wanted to get into some stuff that I didn't do because of the replay that happened the other day. So we'll see if I can motor through the rest of this. But first, I want to get a word in from our sponsor. And our sponsor for today's show is Patriot Mobile. And now more than ever, especially now after this last election, your vote just is not enough. You need to make sure that your resources, your dollars that you're using, go to companies that fight for what you believe in. That's why we switched to Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. They don't just talk about their values, they use their resources to back them up. A portion of every dollar that you spend goes to pro-life, pro-family, and pro-freedom organizations. Right now, you can get a free month of service when you go to patriotmobile.com and use promo code Jackson, or call 972-PATRIOT and use promo code Jackson. Defend freedom with every call, every text, every month. Switch to patriotmobile.com today, patriotmobile.com/Jackson. All right. I am Big E, and you are watching or listening to the Mission Ready Men briefing on the SHR Media Network, where you can catch Stackhead Sean with the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Wednesday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. The Reaver of Common Sense with Jersey Joe every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And BZ with the Berserk Bobcat Saloon every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific. He will be on tonight, so be sure to check him out. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, to all these guys' great shows, and pray that we continue to break through the way we have been over these past few months. We have reached 668 subscribers, I believe, when last I looked. And we want to reach as many people as we possibly can, because, as I said, and as we've talked about in this, the first part of this show, we need to reach as many people as we possibly can, because people just don't seem to get it, unfortunately. And so we got to make sure that they get it. All right, let's get back to our regularly scheduled programming, shall we? Yes, we shall. Excuse me. BZ. See, BZ syndrome, never being able to get to all the stuff he has to say. Yeah. It's tough. I would love to be able to do this every day, but can't do it right now. So this is what we got. All right. So President Trump made some waves this week, and I want to talk about it because it's something that I have talked about before. So let's take a look at this.
They're killing record numbers of Christians in Nigeria. And they have other countries very bad also. You know that part of the world, very bad. They're killing the Christians and killing them in very large numbers. We're not going to allow that to happen.
We've talked about this before. And I'm really glad that President Trump has decided to weigh in. And this isn't the first time, because in his first term, he actually did this as well, but he didn't threaten military action. But he put Nigeria on notice. And then when he lost to Biden, or when Biden stole that election, Biden canceled that. And so he also posted this. And he also posted this. So let's read this, because this put a little more emphasis on it. He said in his Truth Social post, Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter. I am hereby making Nigeria a country of particular concern. But that's not the least of it. When Christians or any such group is slaughtered like this, like is happening in Nigeria, 3,100 versus 4,476 worldwide, something must be done. I'm asking Congressman Riley Moore, together with Chairman Tom Cole and the House Appropriations Committee, to immediately look into this matter and report back to me. The United States cannot stand by while such atrocities are happening in Nigeria and numerous other countries. We stand ready, willing, and able to save our great Christian population around the world. I know a lot of people, and there was another post where he threatened military action, and I know a lot of people are not keen on that. And I don't know how I feel about military intervention over there in this particular case, although if I was to lean towards that, it would be for the protection of Christians in that country. So I'm probably 60-40 in favor of it. I get why people would not be, and I wouldn't argue in absolute terms that we should do it. I get it. But if we're going to commit our troops to any cause, I would be in favor of that. It would take a lot of convincing for me not to be, put it that way. But while President Trump did this, it almost got no notice. It did get notice from one person, which kind of surprised me, and this person took some slings and arrows for it. That was Nicki Minaj. She actually said that this made her feel a deep sense of gratitude. A broken clock is right twice a day, I guess. I was really surprised to read this, and she took a lot of flack for it from her leftist cohorts. So, I mean, good on her. Good on her, and good on President Trump. I do appreciate this. It is a genocide over there. And President Trump, as I said, in his first term, declared Nigeria a country of particular concern. And he warned of cutting aid and a possible military action over there if it continues. As I said, I'm reluctant to be in favor of military action when it's not in our direct best interest. But if we were to do it for anything, I would be okay with it. I really would. And some people might say that's being intellectually dishonest and that's being inconsistent. Okay, I'll own that. Okay. It is what it is. That's what I think, and if you don't like it, tough. I don't know how else to put it. But thousands of Christians are being slaughtered between Boko Haram, the Fulani militants, other groups. 100,000 Christians have been killed in Nigeria since 2009. 18,000 churches burned. So this is something that has been an ongoing, and as I said, Biden, when he got into office, he canceled President Trump's order of making Nigeria a country of concern. And when you look at the left, when it comes to persecuting Christians, does that surprise anyone? It shouldn't. It really shouldn't. But again, Christians are being systematically slaughtered in Nigeria just for being Christians. Christians aren't rising up and taking up arms against Boko Haram or the militants or anything like that. These people are going into church services and slaughtering people. Going into church services, into churches, telling people they either need to convert to Islam right then and there or die. And Christians are saying, do your worst. And they do. They do. To the tune of 100,000 since 2009. But yeah, Islam is a religion of peace, right? That's what I was reliably told by a number of people. Islam is a religion of peace. But somehow that's okay. But mean tweets and whatever else. Caroline Levitt told some reporter, responded to some reporter, his mom. I can't remember the exact context, but somehow that's somehow that's the bad thing. BZ. You don't get it. Nigerians killing Christians means that Islam is doing the work for Democrats, leftists, and anarchists. What's wrong with? Well, yeah. What was I thinking? What was I thinking? You are absolutely right, BZ. Oh my goodness, these people. Let's flip this a little bit. Imagine if this was a bunch of LG alphabet mafia activists or journalists being executed. What do you think the left's response would be? They would have rainbow flags in their online profiles. They would come up with some color square to put there in support. They would be calling for us to intervene militarily, because they have no problem sending our troops all over the world for no good reason. But Christians being slaughtered, Christians being persecuted, well, they are the global elite's scapegoat. They're the ones who are responsible for all the evils in the world. They are the one group that you can kill without a headline. And the fact that Nicki Minaj, of all people, has this level of moral clarity on the issue tells us that everything is completely upside down right now. Completely upside down. But as I said, a broken clock is right twice a day. So I'm not trying to suggest that Nicki Minaj is some kind of paragon of virtue at this point. But even she sees this for what it is. And has, as I said, has taken a lot of flack from her leftist cohorts on it. So we'll see how long it takes before she apologizes. And then we'll see if the moral clarity is really there. But the fact that she said it in the first place is pretty interesting. Faith under fire is still faith. And Nigerians' faith is under tremendous fire right now. And silence under fire is surrender. So are we going to surrender, or are we going to fight? And I'm not suggesting that we have to go over there and fight, but we need to at least pray for these people over there in Nigeria and what's happening, and pray that their faith is, we know they're going to get their reward in heaven, but pray that their faith is rewarded here on earth with some intervention, whether it's divine intervention or U.S. military intervention or UN intervention. Well, UN, we know they're not going to intervene. They hate Christians and Jews, so that's not going to happen. But we're going to keep following this story and see where it leads, because we need to keep them in our prayers and pray that this gets resolved quickly, as President Trump alluded to in his message to Nigeria. So we'll see how that goes. All right. The left likes to talk about how tolerant they are. They like to talk about how kind and compassionate they are. All evidence, though, seems to point to the contrary. And we could pick any number of stories to highlight this, but there's one in particular. I was going to talk about it on the last show, but there wasn't one, so I'm going to talk about it here. And there is a woman by the name of Jennifer Welch. She has a podcast called I've Had It. She is an ally of some kind, LGB, Alphabet Mafia ally, and one of those anti-racist allies, I guess, even though there's a video that I think I have it, where she says some of the most racist stuff you could possibly imagine. And this right here is Ms. Welch. She is, wow. And she has enough to call people ugly and stuff like that. And whenever I see her picture, this particular picture, this is what I think of. I mean, the resemblance is uncanny, isn't it? Anyway, there is a video that I want to show you guys with her, and the response that I want to get to as well. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I want to get to this because Jennifer Welch has been on the attack. She had played this video where she talked about how they were coming after conservatives. They were coming after MAGA. She laughed when some woman said that she wished she was glad Charlie Kirk was killed. And then the woman who was interviewing her asked, well, I do the same thing. Would you be glad if I died? And she said, yeah. Well, no, she said, I don't know, I'll have to think about it. Then they had a little more back and forth, and she said yes. And she thought that was absolutely hysterical. Well, this is Ms. Welch talking about one of the nicest people in the conservative movement. And just listen to this.
Only place that you could get a job is at bottom feeder Fox News, you insufferable twat. Nobody likes you except for the other fake Christians that enjoy in their spare time watching children get zip tied and then sit there and justify it while they read the Bible with their hideous crucifixes around their necks. So you, Riley Gaines.
Quite the tirade there. Look, honestly, listening to that, it breaks my heart. It really does. Like, just so much anger and so much rage that is so disproportionate to anything that I have ever said or that I have ever done or advocated for. Man, I just wonder if women like this will ever eventually wake up and be embarrassed that they behaved in this way.
No, I can answer that for you right now, Riley. They will not. They will not be embarrassed, barring divine intervention, barring them getting a revelation. No, it will not happen. BZ says that chick is evil incarnate. James Harbin, thanks for joining us here. He calls her Satan's minion. Well, yeah, I mean, given that tirade and some of the other things that she said over the years, it's demonic. It is demonic. And to look at her, I mean, she looks like she's been she looks like she's been possessed by a demon. James Harpin says that's why 80% of men don't date too many whack jobs. Yeah, I mean, it's insane. It is insane right now. Yeah, that zip tie thing has been it's been disproven. It's been completely disproven. Because yes, if the evidence existed, it would have been all over the American media maggot venues, or as I like to call them, the American Pravda. But yeah, it would have been. It would have been. But it was it has been completely debunked. Yes, BZ, the lack of something is as important as the presence of something. 100%. And so the irony of these people talking about how tolerant they are, how everyone needs to be tolerant, except they are completely intolerant of any views other than their own. They are completely intolerant. And all Riley Gaines, her advocacy has always been for men to stay out of women's sports. And they make fun of her for losing to a dude who in most of his races has completely lapped the field. I can't remember what the term is actually in swimming, but I mean, he just completely has dominated every. Something happened there. Sorry about that. I don't know if he was just trying to placate people or whatever the case may be, but yeah, regardless, all she's ever done is advocate for men to stay out of women's sports and women's spaces, and somehow that earns her the ire of all these people and the hateful, vile, vitriolic stuff that she's been saying. Not just her, there have been other people who said similar things about her. James Harbin, yeah, they hate to be called filthy names, yet she uses them freely. Exactly. The hypocrisy is off the charts with these people. And I think in that same podcast episode, she went on to talk about how she is kind and progressive and all this other nonsense. Well, if that was true, why would you say those things about Riley Gaines, who has done nothing to you, who has done nothing but advocate for women and girls, but you think that that's somehow hateful, and reading the Bible is somehow a bad thing? And Riley's response, nothing but class, nothing but grace, saying she'd pray for these people. I mean, when you compare that to Jennifer Welch's profanity-laced tirade, I mean, when you look at it from the outside, and this is why I always try not to devolve into a lot of I try to keep myself back from the type of things I want to say, because I know that I'm not going to convince the person that I'm arguing with or debating. I know that that's a lost cause. But when I engage in these things, I know that there are people lurking, that there are people watching, and those are the people that I'm trying to reach. And when somebody's from the outside looking at what Jennifer Welch said and what Riley Gaines said, whose side do you think they're going to side with? If they're not already ideologically entrenched one way or the other. If there's somebody who's just trying to figure out an issue? Which way do you think they're going to lean? BZ says, I'm a kinder man than he. It's not that. It's not that, because believe me, I guarantee you that the things that a lot of people say, they have run through my mind. But I'm just looking at it from the perspective of trying to convince people. That's it. That's it. And I don't think that reacting the way Jennifer Welch and people like her does anything to convince anyone to join their side. Whereas I think the way Riley Gaines reacted goes a long way to convince people, well, maybe that's the right side. So Jennifer Welch, the new patron saint of self-own and hypocrisy. These people are absolutely ridiculous. All right, I was going to I had something I was going to do on Kyle Kulinski and his ridiculous attack on Erica Kirk, but I'm not going to get into that because it would take me a long time, and I really don't want to deal with his madness right now. So let's take a look at Twitchy, see what Twitchy has to say before we get you out of here. Twitchy is always good for some some lighthearted entertainment. All right, let's pull this up real quick. One thing I do dislike about Twitchy is this VIP nonsense, because not everything, but they put stuff behind a paywall, which I do not appreciate. But let's take a look at this. Obama praises Nancy Pelosi's skill at bringing people together. As we talked about earlier in the show, when we first started, Nancy Pelosi has decided not to seek re-election, thankfully. Barack Obama says for almost 4 decades, Nancy Pelosi has served the American people and worked to make our country better. No one was more skilled at bringing people together and getting legislation passed. I will always be grateful for her support of the Affordable Care Act. Really? That's what you're going with? The bill where she said you have to pass it to find out what's in it. Okay. Yeah, she brought Democrats together, but everyone else not so much.
We take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue with their allies in the Congress of the United States. It's really actually shameful. And
that was bringing people together. Okay, that's an interesting way to bring people together. Pelosi calls Trump the worst thing.
He's just a vile creature, the worst thing on the face of the earth. But anyway.
You think he's the worst thing on the face of the earth?
I do, yeah.
Wow.
I do.
That's supposed to be bringing people together. Okay, interesting. And yeah, this was another classic Pelosi.
Thank you. God bless you. And God bless America. Thank you very much.
And I'm pretty sure her ripping up that document was a crime. I remember hearing that when it first happened, that was that she committed a crime when she did that. And this is from her daughter. I remember this.
Just what are your feelings about this person who you know quite well becoming Speaker of the House for a second time?
She'll cut your head off and you won't even know you're bleeding. That's all you need to know about her.
Wow. It's talking about her mother. Okay, interesting. So yeah, ding dong, she's gone. Thanks for playing, Nancy. Oh yeah, I talked about earlier the list of demands that the Democrat Socialists gave to Zohran Mamdani. So let's take a look at this. Palestine policy meeting agenda and notes. Okay. Divest city pension funds from Israeli bonds and securities. Withdraw city funds from banks that lend money to Israel or do business in Israel. End city contracts with companies that do business with Israel. Operate city-run grocery stores free from Israeli products. Investigate real estate agents hosting illegal sales of stolen wow. Divest CUNY endowment and reinstate wrongly fined professors. Dismantle Eric Adams, New York City, Israel Economic Count. I mean, they absolutely hate Israel. And this is man, these people are ridiculous, man. There's so much. I'm paralysis by analysis, trying to figure out what to talk about. These people, man, I really don't know. I take that back. I do understand. I do understand how it happened. The way the left has gained such a foothold in this country goes back to education. They have stolen the education system and subverted it to the extent that what kids have needed to learn how to navigate this country, this republic, they've been brainwashed. And I remember thinking back to my own education, and actually, but even before that, when I first started getting into political commentary and stuff like that, I asked a few people, my parents and some other people their age, about what education was like when they were coming up. And my parents actually studied Latin in school. When I was in school, I wouldn't say we were indoctrinated, but the level of education that we got in public school is not what it should have been. And as I said, when I talked to those older people, it's not what they had by a long shot. And I had some people tell me that the things that they learned in high school, they could have passed most of today's college level courses with that level of education. And I know once I started getting into this, I had to read a lot on my own to learn the stuff that I should have been taught in school. And the kids these days know just enough to be dangerous. And they've been taught so much by these leftist indoctrination centers that they're raising up an entire generation. I mean, Mamdani's what, 34? He was a young kid when 9/11 happened, and I know people are saying we can't weaponize 9/11 against him. Not to do that is suicidal. But anyway, BZ says he had to study Latin and he knows his Latin declensions. I don't. I did not learn Latin at all. I wish I had, but yeah. So what President Trump is doing with education now, I think, is a good thing. If we can keep it going and it doesn't get reversed by some leftists who get elected in 8 or 12 years, it'll still take a generation or two to see even the slightest reversal of what they've done, and maybe even 3, because it's been going on for so long. Because these people think that what's happening is a good thing. The kids who are coming out of school these days think that socialism is a good thing. There was a poll not too long ago where these kids have a favorable view of socialism, which is communism. Leaving aside the fact that it's the deadliest form of government ever created, but details, I guess. Anyway, I guess that's it. I guess that's all I got for you. I had a few other things I wanted to get to, but we'll tackle that next time. I will keep trying to make each show better than the last. And if anything that I said hits home, please take a second to like and subscribe and share it with everyone that you know. Because like I said, we want to reach as many people as we possibly can. We're not just here to run our mouths. We're here to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and carry the banner of faith, freedom, and hope for future generations. The future generations I just spoke about that hopefully will get a better education than they're being given right now. And if you want some cool gear and let everyone know that you're in this fight, head over to missionreadymen.com. Click Shop 7 Armors. Check out all the great designs that we have over there about bold faith, true grit, and unapologetic patriotism. And as always, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.